Hello and welcome to episode number 2 on the Collected Conjuring channel of the Packs to Cube series, where we're ripping a bunch of packs, building some limited decks, and then we're going to jam them together and make a cube. The set that we'll be featuring today will be Ravnica Allegiance, the second set in the third block of Ravnica, even though they didn't technically call it a block anymore. It still kind of seemed that way because there were 3 sets in a row that all took place on the plane of Ravnica. Before we get any further, the first thing I want to do is address 2 things. The first one being that I didn't plug the tools that we're using in this series. The first one, when we're doing the pack opening to scan the cards, we're using the Deck Builder card cam. And then when we're doing the deck building, we're using the site Archidekt. I love both of those tools. I think the card cam works very well for what it does. There's very few mistakes, and if you ever see me flip over a card, that's because I know that there's a mistake there and I need to address the contents of that pack. The first few videos, we used a green felt background to do the scanning, and then after that I used a light blue playmat instead, and I feel like Deck Builder is much better at recognizing the cards when we're using the light blue playmat over the green felt pad. So you'll see that change here in some of the upcoming videos. I don't remember exactly which one I started that on. And then the other Archidekt is a really cool visual deck building tool. It feels like a really, really up-to-date version of like building decks in Magic Online, which was one of my favorite tools to use specifically to build decks before I found Archidekt. The other thing I want to address is that when I was watching the video back for the Guilds of Ravnica set, I noticed that we opened some of the split cards, and those never made it into the card pool. Now, we ended up in a red-white aggressive deck, and we ended up in a blue-black more controlling deck. So I don't think either of these cards any of these cards are gonna end up in the red-white deck. But Discovery Dispersal, it does what we want to do, surveils, draws a card. In the late game, it's a decent removal spell for an opponent's big creatures if you're able to catch them empty-handed. So that may or may not end up in there. We will have the deck lists linked in the details of both the first video and the subsequent videos, so you can go back and check if we did update that or not. I'm not 100% sure what we want to cut yet, so that's why I haven't just gone ahead and made the change myself. So, back to today's video, Ravnica Allegiance. Same as I did last week, I'll put a link to this wiki page to give you all the details about Ravnica Allegiance if you're interested. But other than that, here we're just about ripping packs and building decks, so I'm not going to bore you with any more of that. And we will get right into the pack opening. Alright, let's open some packs. We'll do the same thing as we did in the first video. I'm not going to go through every single card that's open, more just some of the better uncommons and highlight the rares that we open. Oligarch is a good one if we end up in some form of afterlife deck or some kind of sacrifice deck that brings back afterlife, brings back a 1/1 spirit token. Get the point is premium removal. Archway Angel if we end up doing any gates. Looks like the split card Bedeck Bedazzle was the rare open in that pack. Not super excited about that, but it does function as a removal spell. Got a Persistent Petitioners. Maybe we can go into a mill deck if we open a ton of those. Sphinx's Insight goes in the Azorius decks. Grotesque Demise a decent removal spell. Frilled Mystic, Dovin's Acuity. Except for the rare, this pack looks pretty good. I think we're probably going to use at least a couple of cards out of here. Nothing super exciting so far. Law Mage's Binding is a good Azorius sort of unconditional removal spell. There's another Oligarch. Pitiless Pontiff is a sacrifice outlet for the Afterlife decks. Growth Chamber Guardian, we'd be excited to open more of those. If we don't, it may or may not get played depending on whether we're in the Adapt deck. Rafter Demon is a staple of the Rakdos decks. Skewer the Critic also. It's our second Growth Spiral. Gates Ablaze, if we end up putting Gates in. Essence Capture is a premium counter spell. Looks like the rare there was Thrash and Threat. And I apologize because I don't remember exactly what that one does off the top of my head. See two cards, the Senate Courier and the Knight Arbiter that would end up played if we end up in a high alert deck. Another Gate payoff with the Gate Colossus. Repudiate, Replicate, that's probably a card that ends up in the cube, even if we don't end up in the Simic deck. Aeromunculus is one of the top adapt cards. Sphinx is very good in any sort of blue-white flyers kind of deck. Simic Ascendancy is not an exciting rare for limited. Benthic Biomancer, if we play the adapt deck again, we'll end up using that card. Another Sphinx's Insight. Another Grotesque Demise. Titanic Brawl is one of the premium green spells. Rakdos Firewheeler, if we end up in a Rakdos deck, that'll 100% get played. And the rare is Ethereal Absolution. That'll most likely get played. Nothing exciting so far in the commons here. Summary Judgment is probably playable. Chillbringer, there we go. A flyer that taps down an opponent's creature and makes it not untap their next untap step. Zagana is a card that I was hoping was going to be better than it actually is. I didn't mention Savage Smash the first time that we opened it, but that's a premium removal spell for the green-red decks. Shark to Crab, another one that we'll play if we end up in an adapt deck. Skyguard is more of a controlling deck. Tome of the Guild Pact might be in the cube eventually as one of the greedy mana fixers, for anybody who's going to end up playing 5-color, but it probably won't go directly into any decks that we end up building out of this pool. Consecrate and Consume is a decent Edict type card. Make your opponent sacrifice a creature. And Font of Agonies just won't get played. Grasping Thrall, one of the bomb commons in this set. Another Consecrate and Consume. Terramander if we end up in some kind of spells deck or the adapt deck, or I'll add it later because I'm a spells player and I love that card. Priest of the Forgotten Gods, awesome in Standard, will end up being put in the cube if we end up going with a sacrifice themed deck for sure. May or may not make any of these decks because I still don't think I've seen enough Afterlife to end up in the white-black or Orzhov deck. Applied Biomancy is a decent trick. Light Up the Stage is something that would go into any aggressive deck. Gyre Engineer would probably end up in the cube for mana fixing purposes later. Godless Shrine is the first shock land that we've opened in this, the white-black one. And it looks like that's all we've got, so we'll move on over to deck building. Hello and welcome back to the second episode of Collected Conjuring's Packs to Cube. Here again with Dom the Bearded Guy, in charge of keeping me in line. And here we have the packs that we opened from Ravnica Allegiance, which just happens to be our second zero mythic pool. So
never lucky.
Yep, never lucky. So let's see what we want to build here. Was there anything when you were looking over the pool that jumped out as to the build arounds out of this that you might want to consider?
Well, first of all, Ethereal Absolution is an S tier bomb. Like, it's the best card possibly in the format. If I'm recalling correctly, we're playing that in a deck, even if it's a double splash. And I don't think it'll be that much of a stretch. But as to build-arounds, if you watched episode 1, you'll know that we had the Dimir uncommon build-around. We have the inverse of that here with the Azorius version in Dovin's Acuity. That helps you control the game, gain card advantage, stay alive. That's an interesting build-around. We also have an interesting approach towards the Gates deck, because I do know we have at least one Gate Colossus and at least one Gates Ablaze, cards that care about the number of gates in play and scale much more powerfully that way. So we'll want to pay a little bit of attention to our gate theming as well.
Sounds good. So would just before, without going into too much detail yet, do you think we would play the Dovin's Acuity in the same deck as the Ethereal Absolution, or a different deck than the Ethereal Absolution?
If you gave me my choice, it would be in the same deck, and it would be the most sweet control deck ever. But okay. We'll see.
Well, that's where we'll start then. We'll start with both of them in the same deck. We know we're playing them. The only thing that I would kind of worry about with the Gates theme is that when we actually get the cube together and do the fixing, I'm not sure how many cycles of gates we're going to put into it. So it may or may not be relevant to the cube once it gets built. But we can put both of those for now into like the things that we'll think about for later iterations of
Sounds
the
good.
cube. And then if we do get to a point where we're like, you know what, we really want to just have like 2 cycles of gates in the cube for when we're drafting, then we'll toss both of those cards in because they would be played in basically any deck that would play a bunch of gates.
Sounds good.
So other than that, the things, I mean, I see um, the two uncommons that I would want if I was doing a um, oh god, what's the Simic one called? I guess I can just look at it. Adept, which would be
Adapt.
Terramander and Sharktocrab. But I don't know if we have enough support for the +1/+1 counters theme before looking into it to know if we want to do that with any of these, with either
I
of these
know we have
decks.
quite a few Simic cards. I don't know if they're great Simic cards. Like Simic Ascendancy is not, and one Growth Chamber Guardian is not the greatest. But if we're evolving, it could be okay.
Yeah.
Um, Benthic Biomancer is another interesting one that to put +1/+1 counters on. If you can slide them on from other places, you still get to loot, which is very powerful.
Yep. Um. So for rares, we've got Tome, which will end up in the possible mana fixing at a later point pile, but probably won't actually ever get played. Um, Priest of Forgotten Gods was much better in constructed formats than it is in limited. Um, so I don't know if we're gonna end up with any kind of sacrifice theme, but we obviously don't have cats and ovens here, so
Well, if we did, it would be in the black white deck with Afterlife. Uh,
right.
so that would be a consideration. But
Okay. So let's see. This is not getting played. Fonts of Agonies is not getting played. The
that's just
deck.
a -3 toughness removal spell that also can do some other stuff. Like it's always going to get played if you have a red or black deck. So
Yeah. So actually, we'll just leave that as is for now, and we'll figure out what we think we're gonna do for deck two first. So we talked on the Benthic Biomancer. Um, the Repudiate Replicate is okay. For the replicate part, creating a token that's a copy of a creature. Zagana, not as good as I would have hoped it would be, but decent. Not playing Cynic Ascendancy, only playing Growth Chamber Guardian is a bear with Adept. I don't remember what this one does. Thrash and Threat.
yeah, it's a punch card.
A punch card. Yeah, we'd probably play that if we were in some kind of Gruul deck for sure.
That's also a creature. Like it does a lot of sweet stuff.
Yeah. Let's go over to the uncommons. So I guess can look and see if we have any of the good um, afterlife cards. Night of the Last Breath is pretty good, but that's just another sack outlet. But it has afterlife itself. Let's see. Pitiless Pontiff is another sack outlet. So we have a lot of the sack outlets, but we don't have a lot of the afterlife cards. It looks like we only have the Knight as far as the uncommons go. Commons. Uh, Debtor's Transport, but that's too high a mana cost that I'd want to play in the Afterlife deck.
Yeah, Imperious Oligarch is the big one. That's the cheap one that also has Afterlife, and we only have two.
Yeah, down here. Just gonna scroll through the white cards really quick to see if we have any others. Grasping Throw is awesome.
It is.
Um, so yeah, I think it's pretty clear that we're not going the Afterlife route. But it does look like we could do a pretty sick Esper deck out of this.
Start building it.
So we definitely want the Grasping Thrall. I don't know that we'd play all three of the Night Arbiters, but we'd probably play at least one or two.
Yeah, just grab one for now. We have a lot of top end in this deck.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna. It's easier for me to toss them all over than to toss one, so that's how we'll do it for now. Law Mage's Binding is a great card. We're definitely keeping that. Senate Griffin would definitely go in that deck for sure.
Yeah, because if you're talking about playing an Esper deck, then the hybrid mana cost is really helpful.
Yeah. Sphinx's Insight may not play two. We'll definitely play at least one. Senate Courier, probably. What do you think about Senate Courier?
I'd leave it out for now.
Okay.
Can always grab.
Sounds good. We'll put the Oligarchs in. Alright, so the rest of the white cards.
Concordia Pegasus is a lot better in this format again than you would think, because you can either boost it or you can use it to block aggressive things. But
Alright, so we'll toss them in the pile for now.
Summary Judgment.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll at least play one of those, maybe both. So now let's see what else we have in blue. Chillbringer.
Mm-hmm.
Would probably play a Shimmer.
Maybe.
Skitter Eel seems like something we'd want to play in a blue deck.
Yeah, definitely.
Would you play a Thought Collapse?
I would, especially because when our goal is to be a control deck, we're gonna have long games, which means we're gonna play against all of our opponent's best cards more often than not, and we want a hard answer. This format was very kind to counterspells.
Alright, so the black. Consign to the Pit, we'd probably play one of those.
Yeah, not thrilled, but you gotta kill things.
Yeah. Blade Juggler. Does he fit in this deck?
I mean, if you can spectacle it any amount of the time, it's worth it. Obviously, much better in an aggressive deck, but I'd leave it out for now.
Leave it out, okay.
Well, you know what? I'm going to change my mind. We have 3 Concordia Pegasi. Like, we can get in a hit early in the air and play this thing.
Right.
Definitely want that Grotestimise. So the splash looks like it's going to be black here.
Yeah.
So the Oligarchs probably aren't going to make it because we're not going to have that black mana early enough. So let's just cut them.
Okay. Alright, and then multicolored cards. We'll definitely play the Sphinx. Or, I'm sorry, uncommons. Definitely play the Sphinx.
Mm-hmm.
Senate Guildmage, probably play.
Yeah. I mean, keeps you alive, trades, loots. Those are all great things.
Skyguard, we would play.
For sure.
What do you think about Consecrate Consume?
I mean, it always gets their biggest creature, so it's pretty good in that regard.
Yeah.
It's like one of the better edicts ever made.
Probably we're not going to play the Pontiff. Syndicate Guild Mage.
No,
No.
not on Splash.
The Knight we would probably play still.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
We have a ton of cards.
Huh?
So we're gonna have a ton of cards.
Yeah. All right, so we'll move the Angel to the maybe later, depending on Gates' plan. Sky Tether?
Yeah. I mean, that stops attacks. That's what you want, and it gets them out of the way in the air.
And Rally, this is not a Rally deck. So, Essence Capture we'd probably play.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of these... Is this the Terramander deck?
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Windstorm Drake we would definitely play in this deck.
Probably. We're loading up on expensive cards here.
Yeah.
Scroll back down just a little on that column. Oh, Code of Constraint. So if we're going to play Dovin's Acuity, we need instants that we can play as sorceries that still do something, and that one at least cycles and freezes something. I would put it in.
Okay. All right, so we're at 33.
So,
but we have some things that we know that we can trim.
yeah, I mean, just looking at what's up there right now, the Blade Juggler is not going to make this deck on a black splash. Which makes the Concordia Pegasi a little less compelling.
What about the Eels?
Yeah, I cut them. They're not that good. They're good, but they're not that good. I also don't know that they make for compelling cube play.
All right, that's better. Sorting by cost now.
And cut that Shimmer a possibility. It just doesn't do anything.
Yes, suppose we have enough.
Cut one of the Sphinx's Insights. Too many cards that do nothing. Cut at least one, if not two, of the Night Arbiters.
We cut one, we're at 27.
So we probably don't want to play the Grotesque Demises on the splash, at least not two. We have a lot of black cards, so I just cut them.
Okay. So we're already down to just one more. I mean, it has to be something from the top end since we only have 5 cards before the 2 mana. No, I guess I wasn't counting the totals. We have a good amount of 2 mana spells.
Right. It definitely has to be from the top end, I agree. I don't think we need to play 2 of the split card. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not that good. So your splash is Consign, Ethereal Absolution, Consume.
And that's
okay.
it.
3 cards. That's okay.
Yeah. And they're all the 3 most expensive cards.
Mm-hmm.
So don't need black early.
So there's your powerful Ethereal Absolution deck. That thing is going to be tough to beat.
Yeah.
It's got some early interaction, and it's going to win any long game. So
It's for long.
apparently being piloted by Frankenstein.
Yeah. Well, that was the obvious deck.
Right. So now, I mean, Grohl would be the obvious choice just because we haven't used any Grohl cards.
Yeah.
Um, oh, but we could also build something that leaned more heavily into Rakdos or Simic by tapping into the gold cards. It's just they're not going to have all the support from the non-gold cards that we've already poached.
Yeah.
But like Rakdos specifically would be an interesting place to look because we didn't use any of the cheap black removal spells or the Blade Juggler. So I might try there first.
Okay. We do have a Rafter Demon. Get the point. Roost to boot. I just wanted to say it like that.
I mean, here we are again, where the other deck is going to be a beatdown deck of some kind, right?
Right. Do you want to look through the green first, just to make sure that we're not blatantly missing anything that we would want to keep?
I mean, to me, other than Titanic Brawl, every green card we have that's any good is a gold card.
Right.
It's either a Simic card or a Gruul card.
Forgot what the Fire Reeler does. 2 damage to target opponent, and then 2 to a creature or planeswalker. That's pretty good. Alright, yeah, let's start with Rakdos and see where we go. I think I accidentally deleted the removal spell. You know what the name of that was? The exile.
Grotesque Demise, and we had 2 of them. Yeah, that's not something you could do in paper magic. Like you move cards from one pile to the other, and they just disappear from existence. So.
Yeah. Common pile. Did that work?
Don't worry, we'll take that out in post-production.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, it's here. It somehow got to different pile. Okay, we're here, and we have our grotesque demises.
Hooray!
Well, since we're going through all the effort to put it back, we will put it straight into the deck.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, like a debtor's transport, maybe. Trumpeter would get played in this deck.
Mm-hmm.
Crocodile, no. Blade Juggler is like the reason you play this deck.
Wish we had more.
Yeah, me too. Dead Revels, we'd probably play 1 in this deck, right?
Yes. If that ever gets back a Blade Juggler, I can't count that high.
Imps, we would probably play 1 of these.
Yeah, totally fine.
Maybe both, so we'll just put them both in for now. Do we need an Edict in this deck? Probably not.
No.
The Grudions definitely go in this deck.
Two drops are probably going to make it.
Yeah. Blade Brand cycles itself, so we'd probably end up with 1.
Maybe. This could be
not.
another case of powerful cards, quantity of cards.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Thirsty Shade.
Roustabout would go in here for sure. Rafter Demon for sure. Get the point for sure. And then
The Gore Clan Wrecker from the red cards.
yep.
Wow, 3 defaces. Gee, thanks.
Yeah.
0 mythics, 3 defaces.
uh, would we play Storm Strike?
I mean, let's say no for now.
Okay.
We want that Skewer the Critics pile, though.
Definitely want that Skewer the Critics. Would we play the Active Treasons with sack outlets?
Well, I would only want to do it if we had sack outlets, and I don't know that we have a ton of those.
Okay, so get the sack outlets first, then consider moving
Mm-hmm.
on.
I mean, if I'm going to play an active treason, I would rather play Smeltward Ignis, which is a 2-drop that can also be an active treason.
Will we play the vampire in this deck?
I mean, maybe.
Compare it to the other 3s and
But there's a lot of juicy ones in the uncommon pile, so I don't want to load up just yet.
deal. Light up the stage. I see that. Must play.
Fair. Daggercaster. Because you've got the Blade Brand in the pile already, so that's like the 6 mana Plague Wind combo right there. Plague Wind kills all your opponent's creatures.
Smeltward. Nah. I guess we're doing active treasons. We can throw that guy into
Clan or Shaman, he's in. That card is deceptively good.
This is oh. Sounds interesting. Would we play this?
Sounds like you're going to draw it and it doesn't do anything. But Rakdos Firewheeler does a lot of
stuff. Firewheeler is in.
Where is this deck showing up? Because I feel like it's getting pretty full.
It's at the bottom. We're at 24. It actually isn't that bad. I thought we were going to be way over like we were with the others.
Well, we've been increasing our level of discipline.
That's true. Well, that's what you're here for. That's your main focus is to keep the discipline.
Yeah, by the 5th or 6th one of these, I'm just going to be a real taskmaster.
All right. Yeah, as much as I want to play all the active treasons and all the bankrupts in blood, I don't think we're going to do that.
But you can do that when I'm not on the video.
Okay, that'll go. Yeah, that'll be when we're bored with the rest of the videos that we've created and try and just build the goofiest decks possible.
You want to grab that Bedeck Bedazzle out of the rare pile. That's just a 2-mana kill spell that has to be played.
We're not gonna play Priest in this deck, right?
No, I mean it's not going to generate that much value. There's not a bunch of stuff that dies and then triggers a bunch of stuff.
So then the last thing would be the Blood Mist Infiltrator. Probably not playing that also.
But, yeah, again, I wouldn't be ashamed to have it in the deck, but I also don't feel like we need it since we're already over.
Okay. So we're at 25. Let's go.
Cutting a Thirsting Shade for sure. I don't even necessarily know that we have to have any of them, but we sure don't need 2.
Okay.
Wow, that's again very aggressive. Uh, yeah, Debtor's Transport. 6 mana card's got no place here. That Blade Juggler is essentially a 3, so this deck basically, and then the split card is only a 2. So the deck basically stops at 4s with one hard removal spell at 5.
Yep.
Yeah, another 16 land candidate right here with a bunch of stuff we can make cheaper with our spectacle costs. Although, I don't know if there's a 24th card that we desperately want in. It would have to be cheap and aggressive. Could play Thrash as a double red card. Red punch.
And that's not bad. We have 2 Death Touchers.
Yeah. We have 2 Death Touchers. We have the thing that gives Death Touch.
Yeah. I'm in.
I mean, it's probably like a 4 mana card in this deck, but that's okay.
All right. What do you want to name this?
How about Rack doing it?
In there. Rack doing it. All right. So let's just give a quick once over. See if there's anything blatant that makes us want to change our minds, but I don't know. I don't think there really is. I think we probably would have seen it by now.
I mean, obviously the Godless Shrine would come in the deck, but we're dealing with mana fixing separately. Benthic Biomancer not getting played is somewhat disappointing, but there's not a lot of +1/+1 synergy in our Asper deck. Other than that, I'm not sad about anything. So I think we did it.
Yeah.
We did it.
All right, works for me. So there we have the decks for the Ravnica Allegiance pools. We'll see you on the flip side next video.
Next time.